possibly in the air. Probably underneath there's a remedy, possibly in the air, in the oxygen I breathe. Probably underneath there's a remedy, possibly in the air, in the oxygen I breathe. Probably underneath there's a remedy, possibly in the air, in the oxygen I breathe. Probably. I need a place to wind down. I need some time in this phenomenal jungle that we call life.
I count my days, I count my nights. Don't know why sunshine is so hard to read.
Hi everyone, make sure to tune in. We'll start in 2-3 minutes.
Your mind to take the
Just give us a
lead,
moment
so
to
tonight
give the chance to everyone
we
to tune
say
in. And yeah, if you have any
being
questions about
full.
Gladius, make sure to ask them in the live
Won't you
chat.
take my body pure
We'll make sure
while
they
I go
get
to the
answered
riverside?
by Alex. All right,
We'll
see you in
be
a minute.
alright. We'll be alright. I won't lose sight. So take my body pure white and go to the riverside. Let's make it right. Oh God, help me out. Be my soldier. Be my hope tonight. To the riverside. Be my soldier. Hold my body tight. 'Cause I know it feels like. 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 I left the road, I left the mile, don't know why borders are so hard to see here. Would you mind to show the way just for now? Save me from turning to stone. Won't you take my body pure white and go to the riverside? We'll be alright. We'll be alright. I won't lose sight. So take my body pure white and go to the riverside. Let's make it right. Oh God, help me out. Be my
All right. Let me see if it comes through. There's always a little bit of a delay. Okay, perfect. So we're live. Welcome everyone. I'm Dylan, the founder of CryptoMinded, and today I'm moderating the CryptoMinded community ICO analysis with Gladius, gladius.io. It's a pleasure to sit with Alex Godwin, co-founder and CTO at Gladius. And during this live stream, you can ask Alex any questions you may have about their upcoming ICO, their platform, the feasibility of their technology, etc. So questions can be asked through the live chat on YouTube, and we'll do our best to attend to it and get them answered. All right. Please don't hesitate to ask the questions because this AMA is intended to basically educate ourselves on the Gladius ICO and make an educated investment decisions regarding their ICO. So please don't hesitate to ask the questions, all right? After the AMA, what we'll do is we'll send a survey to everyone asking some questions about their project, and we'll then create a report based on the feedback that you all gave on Gladius. So, Alex, it's nice to have you here. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Good to be here. So about myself, I'm the co-founder and CTO of Gladius. So we've been working on it for about 9 months now, and we've been working. And I came from a computer science background, so at this point I'm a college dropout. But you know, it's I was a computer science major at the University of Maryland College Park. My co-founders and I have worked together for a long time. We actually knew each other all throughout high school. And so we've probably known each other for like 6 years now, done a lot of software projects together. I personally have had some experience I worked at a machine learning startup for a while. I did a lot of software development for the Rapid Prototyping Lab at the University of Maryland. And then Max and I have co-founded a few failed startups together, but it's been something that we've worked together before successfully on. And we basically got into Gladius about 9 months ago. We were running a website that did fitness planning and meal planning for for a person. And so.
Okay. Sorry, people are saying on the chat that your volume is still a little bit too low. Is there anything that you can do about turning it up?
Is that any better? The mic's a little closer to my face now.
I think that's a lot louder, yes.
Okay.
We'll get the comments in a second, but
I might be able to.
I don't hear you now.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, that's a lot better.
My microphone on here.
No worries, that's a lot better. Sorry, continue.
Sure thing. So Gladius, I think I dropped off about why we started Gladius. Basically about 9 months ago, we were running the startup that did fitness planning and meal planning and did some cool stuff, to control calorie intake and make some nice meals for people and, give them a good exercise routine that was focused directly to them. And then we hadn't even launched and we were already getting malicious traffic and things like that. And so we obviously thought that we'd have to go buy some DDoS protection and, a WAF and stuff like that. And so we looked at the Cloudflare and, the business prices are pretty expensive for just an individual or like a really early stage startup. And so we were also actually, Max was investing pretty heavily into Ether at the time, and he was making some good money. And so I got interested into it. And I started like reading about Solidity as far as the development side of things goes. And then we saw all these really interesting ICOs that were doing, large amounts of, they were basically the ones that we thought were really interesting were the ones like Filecoin and Golem that were using like unused resources to develop, to build a platform and sell directly to people and remove the middleman. And I thought those were, they're really cool and a great application of crypto. And we noticed that no one had been doing that for bandwidth. And we thought this was a pretty logical application. So we started pretty much immediately after that.
Interesting. Okay, that's great to hear. So how long in total have you been in this space now?
Me personally, about a year. Playing around with stuff. I've been like dabbling in it for a long time, but I've never actually been, heavily invested in it financially or, programming wise. But my roommate Max has been probably 2 years pretty heavily like investing into Bitcoin and Ether and things like that. And yeah, we have some guys on our team who've been in it for the long haul. So Frank, founder of D Corp, has been in the crypto space for a long, long time. And so he's been helping us with some of our Solidity development as well as, just technical advising in general.
Okay, that's great to hear. Thank you. So basically, we have gathered questions from the community. And if anyone has further questions, they can ask them on the live chat on YouTube. I already saw some questions come through. Thank you very much. We'll definitely talk about those later on.
Okay.
And yeah, so basically the questions that I'm asking you are coming from the community directly. Just try to answer them as openly and detailed as you can so that everyone can get a good understanding of it. and that they get their questions answered. All right.
Awesome.
So let's start with a few technical questions first. You're a CTO after all.
Mm-hmm.
Could you maybe please explain us why a decentralized CDN is a good thing? Wouldn't it be ideal to have a CDN co-located with your ISP?
Yeah, so actually that's something that we've been looking to do. One thing that we've been talking pretty heavily about with certain ISPs and service providers is actually getting Gladius nodes in data centers, in businesses, and with people who already have existing SLAs with their service provider. So it's sort of something we could repackage as a way to create an SLA for the platform. And I think the reason the decentralized approach works so much better than like a centralized one is there are a lot of people who have already made this massive investment into infrastructure. So there are businesses who have co-location space. There are offices that have like a couple gigabit drop to their office. And there are even homes that have that similar sort of setup to them. And it's a completely unused resource, and it creates, it's something that's been already spent. So you've already sunk that cost into it. So it makes it much more enticing economically to resell that sort of thing. So, right, if you're Cloudflare, you have to buy a data center to set up some new nodes, which is really expensive, and it's why they charge a lot of money. Versus if you compose of like spare hardware and resources, it means that you can go for a lot less because people aren't expecting for this cost to be recouped anyway. They've already put this into their budget as a way they're going to lose this money. It's being put into it, and just more fully utilizing that is a great way to first of all economically lower the prices, as well as be just more effective in general because you can have much higher distribution.
Right. So if I have a computer, like a spare computer, essentially here in my office that I already paid for, but I'm not really using it, could I use that computer as well to help protect your network and earn some money?
Yeah. So that's pretty much the goal. I'm not sure what type of internet connection you have.
Oh, for me, it's 200 up, 20 up, 200 down.
Okay. So we're focusing more a little bit on the symmetrical side of things because you need to be able to, we'd probably be able to put we're hoping the minimum is about 30 up that you could devote to, get the timing properly. But the goal is that if you had, for example, where I am in College Park, in Maryland, there's a deal with Fios right now who will do a symmetrical gigabit connection for $80 a month, right? So, you can upload a lot of data with a symmetrical gigabit connection and download a lot of data. So you can pretty much run a node for 100 megabit, 200 megabit right outside. You just leave a Raspberry Pi there is the goal, or a spare computer, and you sort of forget about it, and you make some spare money, some spare cash there.
Right. Okay. So this is actually a question from myself that I was struggling with to understand in this case. So for me, like I can't get any better than 20 megabytes up as an individual, and I live in Belgium, which is considered a first world country. Maybe their network infrastructure is not the best, but essentially it would be pretty hard for me then to participate in it. And then also, like I noticed one other thing on the website is that the calculator doesn't take into account the electricity cost. Do you guys see like the cost of networks, the limitation of networks, and the price of electricity in places like Belgium, for example, where it is quite expensive? Don't you see that be a problem for the distribution of the network?
So what I'm thinking, what our thoughts there are, we're hoping this can run on really low power hardware or run in the background on your computer. I'm guessing you're probably pretty power conscious if the power is expensive where you are, but there are a lot of people who just leave their desktop on and forget about it. And that's already something, as unfortunate as that is, it's something that people do a lot of the time. And it won't be so taxing, like, if you're doing GPU mining right now, your computer is going full power. This isn't something that would be, driving your GPU at full power constantly. So ideally, we'd be pretty low on the power usage. And it's a problem that there's a lot of countries that don't have the internet connection that we would hope for. And that's where we've started to look into acquiring nodes in more of the business area and the co-location space sort of thing.
Right. Okay. Okay. Thank you for answering that. So do you guys currently have a product on the test net or on the main net, or is this still in concept phase?
It's still being built, but in the next few days we should actually be able to have. We're building a tool internally right now that allow you to deploy a pool directly to the main net or the test net. And so once you basically right now you can do that. We have the contracts for it, but the goal is in the next few days we'll have a nice interface for it that'll allow you to deploy to the main net or to the test net. Actually, technically any network, but it'll be easier on the test net. Deploy directly to that, and then you can actually start communicating with nodes and gathering their information and building the DNS infrastructure, and then actually sending traffic their way, as well as like acquiring clients. So we're pretty close to having an interface for it. If you wanted to set it up right now, you could. It would just be a lot of command line work and a bit of a pain. But hopefully we should in the next few days have a nice system where you can do that much more automatically.
I see. So question from Brian is, this is built on top of an existing blockchain, right? It's not a new
blockchain. The Ethereum blockchain.
The Ethereum blockchain. Okay, right. Great, thank you. So this is an ERC20 token, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So you guys seem to be focusing on PC, at least that's someone's observation. Is there like a headless server version available? Like I have a node and I just like to run it from that server?
So yeah, that's what we're working on internally right now. What we want to build is a system that has two distinct components. One that's a backend component that runs as a service on your computer, and then a front-end interface that you connect to just to modify those settings. And so the goal there would be you could have a headless system that would run on like a Raspberry Pi, like I was saying earlier, or you could set up a VPS somewhere, or buy some ISP backhaul stuff, that sort of thing. The goal is, we want to be able to tailor it to both audiences. So basically having two separate installers, that one for your everyday consumer, and then one for someone who just wants to put it on a server and forget about it, sort of thing.
Okay, great. So one question from someone from the community as well is, what is stopping Cloudflare or any other competitor building out their own decentralized architecture? Maybe even like do it in a phased method where they have a centralized part and a decentralized part until the decentralized part is more stable. Because if you look at the scale of clouds such as Amazon or like Cloudflare, they have already like very big data centers.
Yep.
How many years will it before Gladius could build a similar architecture? Taking into account the decentralized model.
So I think within the next year or so, we could have some pretty, hopefully by March. March is our goal. We're working with several partners to have a CDN and DDoS mitigation set up. And so in the short term, I don't think our goal is to, defend against those terabit attacks, the big ones that, sort of cripple the internet. But we're looking for more of the 50 to 100 gigabit. They're still ridiculously large attacks, but they're not going to, cripple the infrastructure of the internet or anything like that. And so the goal there is to be able to compete on the lower end and get a lot of people in, especially with the CDN push, because, the CDN is something that people are huge fans of and would actually be much more effective, at least in how we develop it, because, much higher distribution than what currently exists. And so that's a big draw, I think, as far as why people would choose us over Cloudflare and, how we can compete with them. And I don't think, I have my doubts that they would want to build a service like this, because there's a lot of, there's not a huge profit incentive for them, because, they have to pay people, you have to pay for that hardware. And like a lot of the profit incentive for them comes from the fact that they own everything, and they get, once they recoup that cost, everything, all the profit that comes in is theirs, versus this way, they'd have to distribute it to a lot of different people and a lot of different parties. And overall, they're probably not going to make nearly as much money.
Right. So in that case, what incentivizes you? Like, is the profit margin for you guys anywhere acceptable?
Yeah, so the profit margin for us is
with them in terms of marketing and sales and outreach to these companies.
Yeah, so the profit margin for us is going to be pretty okay for a small business. So the goal is, or medium-sized business. So the goal is what we're doing is we're basically a service provider of our own protocol. So once we build this out, anyone can compete with us in a marketplace, but obviously what we can offer is a lot of really good WAF rules that we have ourselves as intellectual property of the company, because we've been working with people closely. So finding a lot of exploits, doing research and that's something we can sell, for a reasonable price to companies. If you go off existing WAF solutions, those already go for like $5,000-$6,000 a month. And we can probably undercut that by a lot. And, we're not going to be a huge company. So I think as far as profit motive goes, we're pretty, I think we're going to be pretty good in the next year or so.
Right. So do you, so this is a question from Tan Kai. Are you going to guys reach out to content providers like Netflix to maybe like serve their content over this decentralized network? Or do you not see yourself competing on that level and rather focus on the small businesses?
So Netflix poses an interesting concern or an interesting problem. They have already, I don't know if anyone has ever looked into what they do, but personally I've looked into it, and they have some absolutely insane infrastructure. So in a lot of ISPs, what they do is they drop in a server with 200 terabytes worth of storage on it. They hook it directly to a fiber line in the ISP, and whenever they configure the routing tables with that ISP to go there, and they can store something like 95% of all of Netflix's content on there, and then that serves 10,000 people. So they already have a massive decentralized distributed system that they've built. So that's not really what we'd be looking to do, especially because the amount of storage there is something that is not really what our goal is. Our goal is more the Cloudflare-esque sort of thing. So the automatic static content caching and the automatic, distribution, you sort of one-click setup. It's not a manual process so much as what Netflix did or what those big companies did. And so that's sort of we're looking for publications, we're looking for small to medium-sized websites to begin with. And then hopefully in the long term, we can move on to larger contracts once we actually are able to generate like service level agreements because of the types of nodes that we've picked up.
Right, that makes sense. So like it needs a bit of time to develop the network so that you'd be able to serve bigger companies because they get more volume, need bigger uptime. So that makes sense. So one question from someone is, what security is in place to protect someone running a node from their personal computer or server from experiencing issues due to a DDoS attack? For example, I'm watching Netflix and all of a sudden, like basically my computer gets called upon to, my network essentially gets called upon to defend against a DDoS attack. Would I experience that my Netflix stream would not go through, or would I experience any problems from that?
For small attacks, the goal is that would be very well distributed. And so we can really move the load over the whole network. But for large scale attacks, there is a potential that your home internet connection could be pretty saturated, and that could present some problems for you. If you had uptime times, so you had times that your node was online and offline set up, then you wouldn't be receiving any traffic at all, which would prevent that from happening. So, maybe if you have, a time where you always watch Netflix, maybe you want to set that to be off. But as far as if a large scale DDoS attack came through, you could experience interruptions in your internet connection. And so that's sort of why we're encouraging or, thinking one of the big draws for this is, just like people build mining rigs specifically for mining, buying a secondary internet connection, setting that up with a tiny computer, and then, you could hopefully recoup that cost pretty effectively.
Okay,
getting VPSs and stuff like that.
So the timing thing makes sense. I mean, I always watch Netflix in the evening, so I just turn off the server then and make sure that I don't experience any issues.
Yeah.
Right. Great. So, I mean, of course, you guys are doing an ICO. So there is a token paired with this project. So what is the main benefit for the token in terms of it increasing in price? Like, what is it coupled with? And why would someone buy this particular token?
Sure. So in terms of like what the token actually does is it's a circular economy, right? So you pay the pool in tokens, and they take these tokens, distribute them to nodes, and then the nodes resell those back to the websites or whoever's purchasing the tokens for service. And so it creates a pretty liquid economy, and it has a direct purpose. And as far as why you'd want to purchase the token, so there's a few reasons. One of which is a finite supply, so people are probably going to have to purchase it in the future to be able to use the platform. If you're a node operator, we're building some incentives for if you purchase or if you stake a certain amount of tokens into when you join a pool, having higher rewards and higher bonuses that way. And then as far as a pool manager, to eliminate a bit of spam, when you list to the marketplace, it actually is a not insignificant amount of tokens to purchase your spot in the marketplace. And that sort of eliminates a lot of the spam and ensures that, people have an economic incentive to do the right thing. And so those are sort of the use case of the token. And then they also give people the ability to poll on development changes. So obviously they're non-binding, but they give us a really good way to figure out the feedback from the community is like what they want in the future of the development of the platform, and that sort of thing. We can create proposals and say, hey, what do you guys think about this? And they can, show that they have an interest in the platform and they have the stake, so they can say, oh, I want this to happen, or I want this to happen.
Right. So a user of the platform, like a business that would like to be secured using Gladius, would pay in your token.
Yeah, and so that's what we'd be doing initially. Long term, we're looking into possibly doing some secondary sorts of agreements. And so, someone would be handling the crypto side of things and taking fiat, and they'd basically be acting as like a broker. And they'd be doing the purchasing, and we're looking into building that into the interface long term. But at least initially, it's going to be, more crypto focused.
Right. So the initial target market is probably also very much the crypto target market. Maybe some old school mining computers that they're not using right now because it's not profitable anymore. Maybe they could use that for Gladius. Right. So like you guys will take a fee of the payments that are being done through these tokens, right? Like that's how you guys will profit. Or are you also running your own pools? This is a question.
So yeah, we're going to be running our own pools. So like I said earlier, we're a service provider of the protocol. And then yes, we take the goal right now is 1% of transactions, but only in the marketplace. So we're not, if you transfer from one person to another, it's not actually going to take a percentage of it. That's not built into the token or anything. It's just built into just the marketplace that we run.
Okay. So if businesses pay in the token, would it become more expensive to use the platform when the token goes up in price, or is it pegged to the US dollar, for example?
So we're going to build some services to actually, pool pricing can be pegged to a US dollar amount or pegged to a token amount. It's dependent on what the pool manager wants to offer.
Okay, so like it could be that it becomes more expensive once the token becomes more expensive as well.
And the goal would be that you could peg the value to a fiat currency. Because you have an infinitely divisible token, you can say, okay, I'm just going to shift this dependent on the price that it is on exchanges. But we can't really talk about the exchange part of things. So, we're not really looking into those APIs yet, but it's something that we will be doing long term.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, for me, it's always my struggle to understand always is when a business has to pay in the tokens that is not necessarily a crypto business. But yeah, you guys seem to be working on a solution to that.
Yep.
So that's good. Let me see, what are the questions in the community that are being asked that I haven't gone over yet. So another question from Ton is, wouldn't companies be concerned if they buy the token, the GLA token, and then it drops like in value, causing them to lose funds? Do you feel that it would be a concern to companies? Or
so because we're pegging, if there was a pool manager and they were pegging their price to the dollar equivalent, theoretically it could be an issue, short term. But I think we should, because we've got a lot of liquidity and a very good use case, hopefully the value of the token can be pretty stable. At least that's the goal. But that is a concern, and that's why we're going to do essentially an escrow service. So the marketplace acts like an escrow, where you deposit monthly, and you say, okay, this is the maximum withdrawal amount, blah blah blah, and then the pool can withdraw from that to pay their nodes. And then if you want to pull out, you can just remove that from the server, or you can add more. So it sort of allows you to not buy a year's worth of tokens and buy it sort of slowly and keep it so you can sort of average with what the market price is.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, this seems to be like a very interesting project. If you have a spare computer and like Tan, you live in Malaysia with 100 Mbps up and down connection,
Yep.
then like if you have the spare computer anyway and electricity doesn't cost that much there, like
Exactly.
seems to be a pretty much a no-brainer to like have it run on your computer.
Mm-hmm.
However, do you guys feel that you're competing with anyone? For example, there's other platforms like Golem that rent out computing like power as well. Would it be possible to run these parallel on the same computer, or like can you only run one of those nodes essentially? For example, one for Gladius, and then I can't run it for Golem. Meaning, in mining right now, you can only mine one currency, so you go automatically after the currency that is most profitable. Would something similar occur here, or?
So obviously there's a little bit of competition, but we're really one of the only ICO or only token projects that uses bandwidth as a commodity. And I think that is, as long as you are having enough overhead for your day-to-day use of your internet, you'll have enough overhead for a couple of these other projects as well. So, like Golem is much more focused on the CPU side of things and the GPU side of things, and storage is focused on your storage. So, we're focusing on the bandwidth side of things, which is, not a resource that has been readily used in a lot of these projects yet. So, and our goal is to be, relatively low CPU and RAM usage, which should give you a lot of room to do these other mining projects too.
Okay, so interesting. So you could potentially run them parallel on the same computer.
You could potentially do that. Yeah, it's really dependent on the hardware setup and what your intended use case is, but it's not it's not a deal breaker.
Interesting. That's really interesting. Okay. Yeah, like that's pretty much all the questions that the community had.
Okay.
Is there anything that you'd like to share about the project that we haven't asked yet, maybe, but you feel that is that people should know about this project?
Just stuff that people should know about the project. I think that we're going to have a beta in March where people can actually start joining and actually, contributing their resources and getting paid for it. So that'll be pretty cool. So I'm excited for that. Just as timeline goes, you can participate in the private presale for another about 12 hours or so. So if you want to get on that, let me know. You can message me in Telegram or something like that. And then the public presale starts tomorrow, and that is going to be, got some better rates, and that's sort of how you can secure your rates based on contribution rather than based on when you contribute. So I think that's a good benefit there. So yeah, that's pretty much just filling in. If anyone in the community has any more questions, feel free to reach out to me. I'm pretty open about it. See, there's 15 people watching now, so I don't feel too bad about saying my email is alex@gladius.io. If you have any more questions, let me know. I'm happy to answer. If you want to schedule some sort of call or something like that, let me know. So yeah, thanks so much for having me.
This video is gonna stay on YouTube, so
you know what?
But, all right. Yeah. So people have been saying that the private sale has been successful so far, and that there are still 6 hours to go. I'm happy to hear that. So what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna send out a survey to the community. Everyone has access to the video to watch it over the next coming days, and basically ask or give their feedback on the project. Awesome. How likely they would be to invest, why they gave that score, what are their positive remarks about the project, what are the concerns, and we'll be sharing this report with you.
Thank you so much.
There's one more. Sorry?
I said it's always good to get community feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one more person that that would like to ask a question, I believe. I would like to ask Liviori. So
sure.
Waiting for his question to come in, but there's a little bit of a delay on the.
Yeah, just a bit. hope I don't regret my email there, but.
All right, he had no question. Well, we were watching and waiting for the question, Liviori. That's a bummer. All right, no worries. Yeah, I hope you won't regret that decision, but it's fine. I think they would have found it anyway if they really wanted to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, it's my first name at Gladius.io.
So exactly, all good there. I will start distributing the survey to the community in about 15 to 20 minutes, and you'll receive the report in a few days. If you guys want to participate in their pre-sale, you can join still. And otherwise, of course, you can wait for the report and get the feedback from other community members on their upcoming ICO and figure out whether you should invest or not in their ICO. Their public sale is going to be open until
the end of December 30th.
Until the end of December 30th. So you have a lot of time still.
There's a good window.
Sorry?
There's a good window there, yeah.
There's still a good window indeed. So if you have any questions about Gladius, feel free to reach out to Alex, join their Telegram or Slack, go to their website, and make sure to answer the questions in the survey. Would really appreciate that. And yeah, stay here. Basically, the report will be shared on a video within a few days and within the community on Crypto Minded. So if you're waiting for that, make sure to check back on the video or in the Slack community. Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for the great answers. I think it's a really interesting project, and I personally will probably try it out with my spare MacBook if I can get my provider to up my 20 MB upload connection. And yeah, thank you so much. Have a great day, and good luck with the ICO. And happy Thanksgiving.
Have a good afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.